Hey friends, welcome to season 7 of the Let's Get Real podcast. I'm Justin.
And I'm Trisha.
Every week, we have honest conversations about life, love, and leadership without the pressure to pretend.
Whether you're in a great season or a messy one, this space is for grace and truth and real connection.
And this season, we're diving into some powerful conversations with each other, with friends, and with leaders who are making a difference by leading from a place of authenticity.
So whether you're listening in the car, out on a walk, maybe just hiding in your pantry for a little peace and quiet, this podcast is for you.
Let's dive into season 7 and get real.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Let's Get Real podcast with Justin and Trisha Davis. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you. Welcome to you, Trisha.
I need to say that to our guests. So,
we're trying something. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on your phone or in your car or another podcast listening device, it doesn't really matter where we're sitting. But if you're watching on YouTube, welcome. We're grateful that you're one of the 74 subscribers to our YouTube channel.
We're up to 74. Let's
we are
go.
Crushing it.
There were some OGs that I think when we launched our YouTube, we had like 12 or maybe less than that. It was
we started out with 2 the first week.
And those were our kids.
Yep.
2 of our adult kids.
I texted the family group chat, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
So we're figuring it out. We usually sit with each other, but it was like, this is awkward. I'm talking to you, you're next to me. It was weird.
Yep.
So we're just coming to you from each of our offices, and
I have my Christmas gift that you got for me.
Yes. Which to those listening, he's got his ginormous, extremely heavy, I don't even understand, headphones.
Apple AirPod Pro Maxes or whatever they're called.
They weigh 1,000 pounds. So,
they're amazing.
So if you've been with us for some time, you know that kind of the cadence on the Let's Get Real podcast is we have guests and then you have the Davises. And sometimes we talk about what our guests talked about, like the last episode, but you and I have been going through our recent book, One Choice Away from Change. And we've been going through, like, I don't know, have we gone succinctly from chapter to chapter?
Yeah, we're going chapter to chapter. And really the hope of going through the book isn't, if you've read the book, it isn't necessarily to give you double the content. It's really more knowing that each of us are one choice away from the changes that we want to make. We want to try to make the book accessible, practical, and give you really insight into how you and I are living out these principles every single day. Because they're not just, these static theories that we've written about. They're really principles that we have had to learn sometimes the hard way in our own life. And we want to give the listener, those of you that are listening, just an opportunity to go, oh, I'm not alone in that. Oh, they struggle with that too. Oh, there is hope in getting over that.
Yeah. I think one criticism that we've gotten of people are like, but it's more than one choice. And I'm like, y'all, that's semantics. I get what you're saying, but
it's one choice per chapter.
You have to start somewhere. Like we get decision fatigue, which is really the heart of the book, is like, when so many things feel like they need to change, it's just like in kind of our topic today, we're talking about what do you do when you feel stuck, and what's the difference between actually being stuck and feeling stuck. And this is a chapter that you wrote, Justin, and really the heart of the book is found, I believe, in this chapter, in a sense that the common through line that everybody has experienced in their life, regardless of season of life, is that we have felt stuck. And for some of us, stuck feels like we're done. Stuck feels like impossible task. And what you and I have experienced personally, we've experienced in the people that we have shepherded and pastored over the past 30 years, is it really comes down to just making one choice. Doesn't mean that everything's going to change, but one choice can start to implement change. So walk us through kind of your heart.
Well, I want to pause for a second, because I think you said the heart of the book is in this chapter. So that really warmed my heart as I heard you
Oh,
say that. So thank you,
yeah.
babe. I appreciate you
Yeah.
saying that. I really love the timing of this conversation. God has, as we've launched season 7 of the podcast, God's timing has been so good because this year has been kind of a difficult year for us. We've had some great successes and great, amazing things that have happened. And also we've had some losses along the way. I think that's true for everyone. And as we've gone through season 7, we've wanted to increase the frequency of our podcast. So we're doing 3 episodes a month. And part of that's because we've just had such incredible guests that have spoken life and wisdom and just so much truth over over this season. But I think as we release this episode, it's about 9 days before Thanksgiving. And it's also at the end of November 2025. And so many people that are listening right now, you can probably look back on this year and you can think of things that you promised yourself you were going to make progress in. You were going to make progress financially. You were going to make progress reconciling that relationship with your mom. You were going to make progress at your job. You were going to get that promotion. You were going to make progress in healing your marriage. Whatever that is, and now here we are. What is it? 45 days away from the end of 2025, and maybe
Whoa.
you feel just as stuck now as you did this time last year. And so our hope isn't to like rub salt in that wound. Our hope is to say you are not as stuck as you think you are. And we have experienced not just feeling stuck, but being stuck. And there's a sense of hopelessness. There's a sense of isolation. There's a sense of, I'm the only one that's ever gone through this. There's a sense of shame and regret. There's so many emotions that invade our heart and mind when we feel like, oh, I should have had that figured out by now. I should have known better than to go into that relationship. I should have known better than to charge up that credit card. Like we tell ourselves some really, I think, shameful stories about ourselves that then just perpetuate the cycle of being stuck.
You said the buzzword is shame. That's exactly what we go to is we feel shame. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I am still battling this when it comes to our choices. Then if it isn't shame, it's just somewhere between disappointment and rage when it comes to relationships that are like, I just cannot believe that we're in Thanksgiving and, about to have Thanksgiving and this relationship is still very broken. And I have to make the same decisions of, am I going to go to Thanksgiving? Am I not going to go to Thanksgiving? So it just makes us feel stuck. And so kind of a question that we would love you as the listener to wrestle with is if you could just pause and take a moment and think about when you feel stuck, what are some of your tendencies, like your go-to behaviors when you feel stuck? Do you shut down? Do you get overly involved in things? What's kind of your go-to? For you, Justin, when you think about seasons where you feel stuck, obviously there's the emotions of shame or blame or rage, like all in between, but how do you show up or respond when you feel stuck?
Shopping spree? No, I'm just joking. Kind of. Trish and I were just talking about that. She's like, what do you want to go to the store for? I'm like, some retail therapy. That's always good for me.
Well, I know. Okay, I'm going to answer this for you because I know when you are really struggling. Because you guys, I've had a minivan since 1996. I had.
Oh, we're going to go there. You're really okay. You're really
like
going
a shuttle. What was called?
This is not in the notes. It's not in the approved stories list.
It's not. My first minivan was a Silhouette. We were in youth ministry, and it looked like a spaceship. So our youth kids would be like, every time I left,
the
take
Pontiac
off the
Silhouette.
happening. Yes, but so I love my minivan, and because we don't have a lot of kids at home anymore. There's really not an excuse to have a minivan, but we do have a grandbaby. So anyway, when Justin feels stuck, one of the things, I don't know why, is he tries to make me sell my minivan and get me a new to me car, not another minivan, like a smaller
Honda Pilot, 7 seats. Come on.
Okay,
Honda
so when you
Pilot.
feel stuck, you tend to want to sell and buy things.
Correct. Well, I think I really, if you've been tracking with us over the last, 3 or 4 years, you know that there was just this season of not just feeling stuck, but paralyzed. When we closed Hope City, there was just mental, emotional, spiritual anguish, physical atrophy. And I had gotten to a place of weighing 305 pounds. I had high blood pressure, thought I was having a heart attack in 2021. So just in a really, really bad place. And as Trish and I came out of that season, one of the things that we realized is we can't get everything unstuck all at the same time. And so we had to pivot vocationally. And so we began to, help people have healthy relationships full time. That's kind of our full-time job now. And then Trish went back to school and kind of modeled for me what it meant to get unstuck academically and kind of push yourself mentally in that way. And seeing her really be challenged and start to grow, I felt that when you see somebody growing, it does one of two things. It either inspires you to grow or it makes you resentful of the growth that they're experiencing. And so I just realized I could stay where I'm at and I could wallow in this idea of self-pity, or I could choose to make some changes. And so the first thing that I started changing was my physical health. I wanted to lose weight. And so I started doing that. And then last summer, I chose to go back to school and get my master's degree in leadership. And I'm 52 years old. I could have died without my master's degree. It wasn't something that I needed for a job interview or a resume or an accomplishment. I was really inspired by the growth that I was seeing in my wife, in you, Trish, for those of you that are wondering, that was towards you. But it really was this idea of like, okay, I can either choose to grow or I can stay the same. And I'm not saying that everybody listening to this needs to go back to school or they need to take some drastic steps, but I felt like that was something that God was laying on my heart. Okay, I'm getting in shape physically. I want to get in shape mentally. I want to start reading again and growing again. And I quite honestly, after the church closed, I didn't read a book for like a year and a half because I just had, I don't know, every time I thought about reading a book, I just thought, I just felt resentful. I just felt, I don't know. I just wasn't in a good place. And so beginning that process. And so then I got my degree on August 15th and I told Trish that was my 52nd birthday. And she was like, what are you going to do now? And I said, I just signed up for a half marathon. She's like, what? You don't even run when people are chasing you. And,
I didn't say it that way. I was like, oh, that, usually people start with a 5K or fun run. You went right for the jugular.
But I have a running app on my phone, and I just completed the 13.2 miles this last Saturday. But I went back and looked at my very first run, and I ran 1.2 miles that first run at a 14-minute mile. And I ended up running 11-minute miles for the 13 miles, which for some of you that are runners listening to this, you're like, that sucks. But that was good for me. No. My goal was under 12 minutes per mile. But I say that to say, like, you don't have to start in an advanced state. You just have to start. If you could run 1 mile in 14 minutes, that's a great place to start. So that's a really long answer to your question, but I think most of us don't change until the pain of staying the same is greater than our fear of change. And I got to a place where if something didn't change, it wasn't just going to harm our marriage or my family. It was going to kill me. And I don't want to ever get to that place where my inability to grow or my unwillingness to grow begins to affect not just my most important relationships, but even my mental and physical health.
That you talk about that in the book. You know, that's what happens in our minds. We're stuck, but it's almost like a dam that like we feel stuck, but it's just piling up. Like the pressure, we've got our heart dammed up that it's like we're not moving, and so we feel stuck. But then it's like there's all this pressure. It's just like, you know, you just feel like you can't win. And
Yeah.
for most of us, you said, Justin, there was a couple of things that you said. First, you got honest with where you were. And when you get honest, I think it's great. Like honesty, living in truth is what God calls us to do. But I want to encourage like you as the listener, you can be honest, but what expectations do you place on yourself in that honesty? You may have an understanding that to be unstuck means you have to go do something, but sometimes getting unstuck is not doing something. You know, our friend Johnny Cuff, I wrote a couple books like Quit, Start, I don't know, did you do an in-between book? But sometimes, do over. Those can all be true to being unstuck. And so, unfortunately for our story, you know, it came at a moment where it was literally do or die. And I was right behind you in that. And my doctor was saying the same thing. Something had to change. So, you know, what would you encourage the person, you know, as we talk about, it's so fun being on those wins, and you completed your half marathon last weekend, and
Barely.
I missed it because I was speaking at a women's event, but you know, I got to FaceTime you, and it was so great for that win. But I think what the listener and is encouraging for me to hear is, what's the difference between getting unstuck to finish and getting unstuck to live in a healthy rhythm? Like, is it, because it kind of sounds like, oh, to get unstuck, do I need to have a goal?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what we're talking about. This is more of a heart posture. So tell us a little bit more about, you know, your experience of finishing the race. It wasn't a finish at all. It was like I don't know, I'll let you describe in the bigger scheme of things, of being where you were, of being stuck to crossing a finish line.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I guess what I'm not trying to say is that if you feel stuck, you just got to go do something, or you have to, you know, go sign up for something, or you're not trying hard enough. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that most of us, we drift into places of atrophy, unintentionality, and paralysis, not because we don't want to change or not because we don't want to grow, but because oftentimes we are fearful that if we do pursue something, we might fail, or we might give it our best and it might not be good enough, or someone has wounded us and we don't want to be wounded again. So why would I engage in that relationship? And so maybe you're in a place that's not necessarily stuck. Maybe it's a God ordained holding pattern. Right. And so that's something that I think is really healthy to ask yourself is, am I slowing down, or am I in this season for healing? Am I in this season for preparation? Am I in this place of, you know, where I'm standing still, where I'm not moving because I'm terrified of moving, or because God has me here for this moment so that I can build up strength? And I think what happens so often when we look at scripture, when we look at social media, when we look at all of these people that we think has it more put together than we do, we judge ourselves not based on who God's calling us to be, but based on who we think other people are. And we always are on the losing end of that for the most part. Yeah. And so if you feel like, man, I wish I had this more figured out, or I'm not fully, developed in this relationship or in my career or, in the healing of this part of my heart. I'll just tell you, there are a few relationships in my life right now that are really, really broken. And how I would describe myself when it comes to those relationships is I'm circling the airport. Like, I know I need to land at some point, and I know if I keep circling, I'm going to run out of fuel. So I can't do it forever, but it's not safe for me to land right now.
Oh, I was thinking you meant circling like on the interstate. You're up in the air, in the
I'm in the
airplane,
air.
circling.
I'm in the
Okay,
air.
let's just to quantify.
I'm circling the airport. I'm in the air. I'm circling the airport.
So, like, what does that mean to you? You're circling because if you land, what does that mean?
Man, we're getting real personal. I think where I feel like, specifically with a couple of relationships, I feel like I either am not prepared or ready to engage the dysfunction of that relationship in a healthy way, or that person that I need to engage with hasn't demonstrated they're trustworthy enough for me to engage. And so that relationship is kind of frozen right now. And I know it's frozen. And so I think that's the important thing, right? I look back on pictures of myself from 2022 and I knew I was heavy. I had no idea I was that heavy, right? So there was a self-deception or an unawareness of how unhealthy I was. Where I am in this, I'm just talking about a relationship right now. In this specific relationship, is I know that it's stuck. I know that it's not where it should be. So there's an awareness there that I'm living with, that when I'm either healthier or that person is more trustworthy, whichever of or maybe both of those things,
Yeah.
then I will feel comfortable moving forward in it. And so there's aspects of this that it's not 2 + 2 = 4, because sometimes to get unstuck in a relationship, we have to rely on that other person, right?
All
It's
the
a two-way
Enneagram
street.
ones just like checked out. They're like, you can give me a formula. But you said something, Justin, that in the context of that, 2 questions that are very helpful. If you are circling in the air or if you're driving around, I was visioning, like when you don't want to wait in line or you're going to get in trouble trying to pick somebody up. So you're just circling the airport is where my brain
I'm
went.
tracking with you now.
Thank you. But 2 questions that are very helpful is, what do I need and what can I do? So I know that I'm stuck. So what do I need? And sometimes that question, let's take maybe you have a really hard relationship that you just feel stuck in. And I could ask you the question, what do you need? Well, you could say, well, I want to have a good relationship. You know what I mean? But truly, like, what do you need? And, I have a relationship that's really struggling right now. And I talked to one of my best friends who's also a counselor. She's been a counselor for over 20, 25 years. And like, I knew this question. I've asked people I work with this question. And she said to me, Trish, what do you need? And I said, well, what I need isn't going to help. And she said, now listen, you called me. So you called me. That means I have permission to speak truthfully with grace, right? And I said, yes. And she said, what do you need? I didn't ask you what other people needed from you or how that would affect people. What do you need? And I said, I need to be angry. And she said, you do. And you need to let all of the words fly. You need to let it all out. And I wasn't ready. Like, I felt stuck. And I, had gone to church that weekend, to our son's church, our oldest son, Micah, and he was preaching a sermon. And it's an incredible church. It's a smaller church, so it feels very exposing. Like, everybody kind of knows who you are. And I just felt like they did like a call and response. And the Lord just said, I want you to go forward. And I thought, it was like a physical representation that my feet were stuck and I was not moving. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't trust the people in the room. They're not bad people, but like, we ain't that close, right? And I just felt like God said, you need to move. And so I went forward and I like just sobbed, like lamented and sobbed. And it was what my best friend, counselor friend was saying. I needed that. For me, what I needed to get unstuck is I needed the dam to break in my emotions. And I had just kind of like kept them all at bay because one, I was scared of what would happen if I let them fly. But what my friend knew is that getting unstuck is answering that question that you said, Justin, of like recognizing I am circling, but why am I circling? What do I need? And, you know, sometimes that's very clear and sometimes that's not clear, but that's the invitation of what do I need? And sometimes that's the power of community, to have people come alongside you who maybe have had that experience. I think my best counselor friend, she has lived what I'm living right now. So her authority to speak into it was so powerful. It's like someone who has a diagnosis that's able to say, hey, this is what I did. It was really helpful. I don't think I would have ever gotten that on my own. And so sometimes we feel stuck. That makes us feel paralyzed because we truly do not know what to do. And so for the listener, you know, especially Thanksgiving coming up, the holidays, if there's an area that you just are dreading or you just feel stuck, I want to encourage you to ask that question, to get honest of like, where am I at? You know, like, are you circling? Are you not? Like, where are you at with it? Do you feel stuck? And maybe that's just the confession to say, I feel really stuck right now. Yeah. And then the follow-up question is, what do I need? And that often brings you to a place of kind of figuring out what is that, just kind of that step, that one choice that you can make. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but like, it is everything for you, Justin, to land the plane. It doesn't mean like you're getting out and navigating your way, but that was a big, you know, choice for you. And I don't even know if you've even made that choice.
Well, I think what happens in that process is, what I was trying to say earlier is, we talk to ourselves the most. The person we talk to the most is ourselves. And most of the time, the stories that we tell ourselves are not helpful and they're not uplifting. And so what I tend to do is I tend to beat myself up that I should be healthier. I should be the bigger person. I should just go and talk to this person. I should just engage. I should just apologize, even though I'm waiting on an apology, right? Yeah. So, but what I'm really after in that moment is, I'm after pain avoidance. I want the pain of the situation to go away. I don't necessarily want to be healed. Ooh. And what getting unstuck and making this choice to identify what's broken and what has you paralyzed, it's the most important part of it. It isn't necessarily for you to move, it's for you to heal. And so if you need to hit the pause button, if you need more time, if you need to grieve, if you need to be angry, if you need to go forward and be prayed for at church, like, we're not talking about reconciling every aspect of your life. We're talking about these small, intentional, sometimes hidden choices that nobody but you and God are going to know that you're making. Mm-hmm. That's just what they are, is they're steps of faith. If you're struggling in this area, there's a passage of scripture I'd love to have you read. I'm not going to unpack the whole thing, but in John chapter 5, there's a guy that's sitting by the pool of Bethesda, or as Trish likes to say in a message, Bethsaida.
I was preaching one Sunday and I may have gotten that word wrong, and I haven't lived it down since. But thank you. Back to
yes.
The scripture.
So, but what the Bible says is that he's been there for 38 years. 38 years he's been sitting by this pool, And the whole thing about the pool is there was this myth that the first person in the pool was going to be healed by a heavenly being, was going to come down and heal that person, the first person that got in the pool when it bubbled up every day. And it's a fascinating story because Jesus comes to this guy and says, "Do you want to get well?" And it's like, how ridiculous of a question is that Jesus would ask this question, knowing that this guy has been sitting by the pool of Bethesda begging for someone to take him into the pool to find healing. But I think sometimes, so often, we just sit by the pool and the pool would be Jesus, rather than asking him, "What do you need me to do, Jesus, to get well?" And, to your point, Trish, it was exposing yourself in a very vulnerable way and walking down front in front of a group of people. You're one of the oldest people at the church. I only know that because I'm 2 years older than you, and I'm one of the oldest people at the church. But that's very humbling, right? You're surrounded by people who look up to you. You're the mom of the senior pastor of the church. And yet you were like, you know what? My healing is more important than my comfort.
Yeah. And it led to something that I couldn't have even dreamt. Like there are things that like you signed up and you did the training and you knew that there would be a start and a finish. But like in that moment, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't even know what I needed. I was told what I probably needed. But the cool part of that story is that I had someone come up to me and just gently put their hand on my back. And I knew that or on my shoulder, and I knew that they were praying. But I mean, I was just like sobbing. They didn't say anything. I didn't know who it was. And a couple days later, our son Micah, I don't know if he called us. And he said, "Hey, Mom, I wanted to let you know that the gal that prayed over you, she got a word picture." And I said,
"Okay." This is insane.
And I wish I had my phone. I was like, do I have my phone here? I don't. She had a picture of I was going to say dandelion, not a
sunflower.
A sunflower coming up out of concrete, like chunks of concrete that it had burst through. And he said, does that mean anything to you? And I said, no, but thank you so much for sharing. That's really cool. And so a couple of days later, I just was praying and I was like, Lord, is there anything to the sunflower in the concrete? And so I just Googled sunflowers, and this beautiful description of sunflowers and resiliency, and how sunflowers, no matter where they are planted, they are resilient to grow, and that as they grow, they look for the light. That's why when you pass fields or you pass where people will plant them in their backyards, you'll see them bending because they look for the light. And it was like just this gift of feeling so stuck in this situation that it was like going forward to lament and let go. I thought that was it. Like that's what I needed. But what God was giving me was this reminder that I am resilient, and it's not resiliency isn't being walked on, and it's not pretending that everything's okay. It's looking for the light. And the through line of all of our crazy stories is that God is faithful. He is enough, and we will always find him when we look for him.
You got me good on that one. That was so good. Well, guys, I hope this episode, this conversation has encouraged you. And, our goal isn't to give you 5 happy hops to a better life. Our goal is to kind of walk with you as a guide through some principles and some things that we've learned and some things that we're still learning in real time. And so no matter where you are, if you feel stuck, if you feel like, man, I should be further ahead than I really am, God is pursuing you and God sees you. And maybe he brought this conversation into your ears today just to remind you that he loves you and that you're not going to impress him any more or any less based on your performance. That just to be with him and to rely on him and to trust him with your next step is the most important thing. So we hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And if you listen to this after Thanksgiving, we hope it was a great Thanksgiving. And we can't wait to talk to you again soon on our next episode.
Thanks so much for joining us for another honest conversation. We hope that something in today's episode encouraged you, maybe even challenged you.
Our heart is to help you live with more connection, more purpose, and really more authenticity in every aspect of your life.
If this episode meant something to you, would you do us a favor? Would you leave a review wherever you listen to the podcast? It helps more people find these conversations.
Or better yet, share it with a friend. Shoot somebody a text message today. Let them know what you're listening to, because you never know how God might use that to encourage somebody else.
We'll see you next time right here on the Let's Get Real podcast.